Hello, everyone. This is the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. It now presents a reading of articles and features from the New York Times for Saturday, May 9th. All right. So I had my daughter pick up my New York Times. I said this morning, pick up a New York Times, and that would be for obviously today, Saturday, May 9th. And she said, okay, Dad, and she picked it up. And so I just read the opening. We have to read that opening and the closing. Reading Niagara Frontier Reading Service now presents a reading of articles and the day and the date, and your reader is Joe Gibbs. And when I read to you Saturday, May 9th, I looked up at the paper that she bought me, and it said Friday, May 8th. And I cut out all the articles. I didn't even notice it, because why would I look to think that they bought me the paper from the 8th? But in her defense, why would the store still have a paper from yesterday sitting there when the Saturday New York Times is out? So I normally have all my articles cut out. Everything's rolling, and today we're going to wing it. But I do have the answers of the crossword. I don't know if anyone does this or not. I wish there was a way to know. But the first one was, and it looks like it was 9 letters, was extremely ambitious projects, was moonshots. 17, the question was handle in the theater, was stage name. So that's your handle in a theater, a stage name. And this says rests on. 6 letters, hinges. And then the other one was 3 letters, blank, Marzano tomato. That was San Marzano, S-A-N. Alice in Zombieland author, blank, Showalter, Gina Showalter. 4 letters, Gina Showalter. And the other one was composite numbers, and this is 7 letters. It was mashups. So there's your answers. Okay. And now, as I was saying before, we're going to wing it, people. I have not looked through here. I don't even know what's in here. But let's take a look. Here's a section I do a lot. A headline from history. Districting squeeze laid the Democrats. May 9th, 1965, a Republican source told the New York Times the previous day that Democratic plan for redistricting the New York State Assembly was outrageously gerrymandered. The source was referring to a plan that would limit Republicans to a third of the Assembly's 150 seats in the state, with an evenly split electorate at the time. Republicans sketched out the Democrats' planned districts, which resembled outwardly animals, according to the Times. A redrawn district in Brooklyn, for example, looked like a long-necked bird. About 6 months earlier, Republicans had also attempted to redraw the state's legislative districts in their favor. In 1966, a bipartisan committee was created to redraw the districts. Democrats have held a majority in the New York State Assembly since 1975. Quote of the day: we are a poor country, we are a failed country, but we are the best fans. A sociologist and author of several books on soccer, Pablo Albarces, on the passion that Argentines have for the sport, leading many to go to extremes to pay the skyrocketing cost of the Men's World Cup tickets. All right. Let's go next. Okay. Might we suggest 4 weekend recommendations from around the newsroom? Kicking and punching like it's 1999. An old school cardio workout made popular in the 1990s is having a resurgence online among a new generation. Tai Bo, a mix of Thai, Kwon Do, boxing, aerobics, has found a fresh audience on TikTok that rivals the reach it once had through infomercials. Remember infomercials? DVDs and cassette tapes. See what revised craze is all about at NewYorkTimes.com-well. It seemed like there was a lot of infomercials before. I don't know if they're still going. I don't really see them as much, but boy, they were selling everything. Number 2, seeing fashion in the spotlight. In New York, the Metropolitan Museum of Art's fashion department has made it out of the basement. Its latest exhibition, Costume Art, inaugurates the Costume Institute's new 12,000 square foot permanent space just off the museum's entrance, and makes a case for why the change was long overdue, wrote Vanessa Friedman, the Times chief fashion critic, NewYorkTimes.com-arts. Downsizing for a life on the road. You can always retire to wherever you've already put down roots, or you can yank those roots up and drive your retirement lodgings around the country. Some empty nesters are leaving a traditional home behind in favor of a recreational vehicle. Camper vans offer financial freedom and a more nomadic lifestyle. Around 170,000 Americans over the age of 55 live in one, according to the trade association that represents the RV industry. Kick up your wheels at NewYorkTimes.com-real estate. And number 4, cooking through chaos. Even as kids this month are sprinting through the end of the school year towards summer, for parents, it can feel like a marathon is just beginning. Between attending year-end recitals, tournaments, and graduation ceremonies, not to mention gearing up for summer vacations and activities, just getting dinner on the table can feel like a stretch. New York Times Cooking asks several parents for their dead simple meal recommendations, which include cream cheese, ramen, and cheeseburger sliders. Find recipes to make your evening a little easier at NewYorkTCooking.com. This says Second Look, built on common ground. For a growing number of Americans, the artificial intelligence boom is taking physical form in the giant data centers being planned for their towns and cities. These campuses, which house the engines driving new AI platforms, change the landscape and suck up resources, and they're spurring local resistance. Across the country, Americans who disagree on other issues are uniting in their opposition to the rapid approval and construction of data centers near them. The huge infrastructure investments have supporters too, but for now, as one Miss Wisconsin man said, this is the most bipartisan issue since beer. All right, here to help. 5 films to stream on Netflix right now. All right, what do we got? Cover Up 2025. There's a history of America that is always so hard to write, explains investigative journalist Seymour Hersh. There's always another level. On one hand, this documentary from the directors Laura Poitras and Mark Obenhaus is a biographical profile of Hersh. On the other, it's tough, often unsettling walk through contemporary American history via the many earth-shaking developments Hersh covered. First Reformed, 2018. As Father Toller, a country priest in upstate New York, Ethan Hawke, which there's a picture of him, creates one of the finest performances in this drama from Paul Schrader, the writer of Taxi Driver and director of American Gigolo. Although this work concerns a man of the cloth, Schrader continues to explore the themes present in those previous works. The film is quite contemplative, which makes it apocalyptic, shattering conclusion all the more impactful. That's First Reformed from 2018, and the first one was Cover Up from 2025. Then there's Krisha, 2016. Trey Edward Schultz debut features based on the struggles and conflicts of family. Many of its members appear in the film as versions of themselves, and he also shot the film in his family home. Schultz's proximity to the material gives it an uncommon intimacy, and his distinctive style using a visual and oral aesthetic closer to that of the horror cinema than of a domestic drama renders this an especially unnerving viewing experience. That's Krisha from 2016. And then 1973, Save the Children. In 1972, Jesse Jackson's Operation Push held a 5-day expo in Chicago, celebrating black excellence in the arts, education, business, and politics under the theme of Save the Children. This documentary from the director, Stan Lathan, mostly focuses on music presented there. A collection of some of the industry's biggest names, including Jackson 5 featuring a young Michael Jackson singing lead. That Save the Children in 1973. And Under the Skin, 2014. Scarlett Johansson forges one of her trickiest performances as an alien life form trialing Scotland for unexpected male victims in this mind-melting science fiction drama from the British director Jonathan Glazer. He creates a disturbing mixture of cinema and body horror using non-actors and hidden cameras to capture Johansson's interactions and seductions to unsettling effect. That's Under the Skin from 2014. So there's some different ones for you right there. All right, facts of interest while we're on this page. Several of New York State's largest public unions have prioritized lowering the minimum retirement age to 55 from 63. Next, the Burmese python is an invasive species in the Everglades. Some scientists say that since the snake was introduced to the region, a great deal of other wildlife has disappeared. No kidding. That's a shocker. In Firozabad, India, a city known for its glass industry, hundreds of firms produce everything from bottles and beads to chandeliers and headlights, generating more than $1 billion in a good year, including $200 million in exports. Nice. The Amazon, home to millions of species of plants and animals, is the largest tropical rainforest on Earth. But at least 17% of the rainforest has been cut down, burned, or otherwise lost. Not good. The NCAA announced that men's and women's basketball tournaments will each grow from 68 to 70 next season. 76. It's the most significant alteration to the men's format since 84-85, which went from 53 to 64. You know, why don't we just make it an even 100? The median asking rent on a New York lease in New York City was about $4,120 in April, according to the renting platform Easy Street, up from $2,800 in April of 2019. Wow, that's something. That's a lot of money, man. All right, we got to look for something now. As I said, I was supplied with the wrong paper, and now we're stuck. A lot of national news. It's just not good, man. I'm going to put that in the radio. Got to find something nice, you know? Food or something. Got to be something good. You know, we're always going to end with food, but... And then by the time I leave here, I go upstairs and make something to eat. I don't know if you guys know that or not, but... Because we do those recipes at the end. And by the time I'm done, I'm hungry. Doesn't take much, honestly. Okay. All right, so you guys heard about this virus thing from the cruise ship or something? This says, how freaked out should you be about the hantavirus? And then there's this little chart here. Are you on board the MV Hondias cruise ship now? And then there's like arrows. Were you on board the MV Hondias recently? It says if you are right now, yes, then you should worry. You should already be isolating on the ship. The full quarantine may be about 8 weeks. If no, were you on a flight with anyone ill from the MV Hondias? And then when it says, were you on board it recently? If you are on one of the 40 or so passengers who have disembarked, you should contact your local health department to be checked for symptoms and evaluated for quarantine. If you're on a flight, health officials are already contacting smaller number of people who shared a flight with someone who was sick. Are you around wild rodent feces, urine, or saliva? Why? Take precaution. In a rodent-infested area, always wear gloves and a mask and use disinfectant or bleach when cleaning. Avoid dry sweeping to prevent inhaling of virus particles. The virus is still extremely rare and only from only a few specific rodent species. I gotcha. It says right now there's little need to worry. There's another thing here. Says outbreak of MV Hondias is unlikely to lead to an epidemic. So there's a little article here. So of the roughly 150 passengers and crew members who boarded the MV Hondias, a luxury cruise ship originally destined for Antarctica, 3 are now dead from a rare infectious disease. Infection by a strain of hantavirus known as Andes virus. 3 more people were evacuated to hospitals on Wednesday after developing symptoms like fever and shortness of breath. Some other passengers who might have been infected disembarked before the outbreak was recognized, raising fears among health officials that the infection, which can have a mortality rate up to 30 or 40%, could spread more widely. The current outbreak is notable to me as the epidemiologist who studies infectious disease because hantavirus, a family of viruses spread by wild rodents that can cause lung and kidney disease, don't cause many outbreaks, despite being found all over the world. In fact, person-to-person transmission is exceedingly rare. If it is confirmed in this case, as I suspect it will be, it will make this event remarkable. Despite unsettling parallels to the early days of COVID-19, when cruise ships were among the first sites to be hit, the risks from the virus are quite different. Most hantaviruses infect only people who come into direct contact with infested rodent droppings, urine, or saliva. Even the Andes virus, a strain that has been confirmed to pass between people, is a relatively poor spreader. In previous outbreaks of hantavirus infection, person-to-person transmission required sustained exposure, such as prolonged close contact with a sick person, which is why Andes virus strain, despite causing severe illness, is unlikely to cause an epidemic. The close quarters of the people on the cruise might have given the hantavirus an unusual opportunity to spread through close contact and shared spaces. Based on what we currently know, only people who are aboard the ship and their close contacts are at risk. Still, it is unwise to be too trusting when it comes to outbreaks. Viruses are wily. In days and weeks ahead, there are a few developments I'll be watching for would change my level of concern. Right now, all 8 people with confirmed or suspected cases were passengers on the Hondias. If a case is found in someone who is not on board, I will grow more concerned about the potential for community spread. But even if more infections are found, the details will matter. A new case with a direct connection to a passenger, for instance, the spouse of someone who was aboard, is explainable. Disease investigators can still hope to have a firm handle on chains of transmission. What would be more concerning is if an infection is found in someone with no obvious connection to Hondias. Unlinked cases mean loose ends that investigators can't see or manage. That makes sense. If someone If it would also concern me if cases are found in healthcare workers. Oh, outbreaks of viruses with characteristics similar to the Andes virus took root in hospitals. A 2015 outbreak of MERS in South Korea comes to mind, in which a sick person visited at least two hospitals and a clinic, inadvertently touching off chains of transmission that led to 186 confirmed cases and 38 deaths. Cases in healthcare settings signal an escalating situation. Another wild card is viral evolution. As the many COVID variants have demonstrated, viruses are always changing and adapting, and sometimes those changes lead to an increased ability to pass from person to person. Scientists will be closely examining samples from sick passengers from the Honduras to assess whether a new variant that spreads more easily is in play. These scenarios are possible, but remote. In all likelihood, this outbreak will quickly come under control, but beyond monitoring for new developments, I will also be watching the effectiveness of the response. The demands of the COVID pandemic and subsequent political backlash have depleted public health programs, leaving us less prepared to mount a strong response. Whatever its final form, the hantavirus event is yet another exercise of our ability to stop outbreaks. The public should expect clear communication, transparency about what is known and unknown. Through scientific investigation and operational excellence, nailing these elements could turn this unusual cluster into a lasting contribution to the science of outbreak response. If investigators do their jobs well and share what they find, the world will be better prepared, not just for the hantavirus, but also for whatever comes next. You never know what you're going to get. All right, let me take a look here. Okay. All right. Here's some financial stuff. Tariff hit Toyota profit, but global sales grew. Toyota's profit fell 19% in the last fiscal year from a year earlier as President Donald Trump's tariffs bit into earnings at Japan's top automaker. Toyota Motor Corp reported a 3.85 trillion yen or $25 billion profit for a fiscal year ended in March, down from nearly 4.8 trillion yen the previous fiscal year. The maker of Camry sedan, Prius hybrid, and Lexus luxury models said that Friday that Trump's tariff policies erased some 1.4 trillion yen from its annual operating income. Unfavorable trends in exchange rates also hit its profit margin, said Toyota, which is headquartered in Toyota City. Still, it said it had held up relatively well, selling nearly 9.6 million vehicles around the world, up from 9.4 million the year before. The value of those sales rose 5.5% to 50 trillion yen from 48 trillion yen the year before. All right. That's a lot of vehicles right there, people. Okay, so this says global outlook prompts switch to price increase. Switch to. The Tenyo's annual profit surged 52% in the last fiscal year, lifted by solid sales of its Switch 2 machines and software, the company announced Friday. The Japanese video game company behind the Super Mario and Pokemon franchises also announced it was raising prices, citing challenging business conditions. It recorded 424 billion yen, or 2.7 billion net profit for its fiscal year that ended in March, up from nearly 279 billion yen the year before. Annual sales rose 99% to 2.3 trillion yen from 1.2 trillion yen a year earlier, as demand for Switch 2 held up, although sales for the first generation Switch declined. Nintendo said it was raising the Switch 2 price in Japan to 59,980 yen, effective May 25th from 49,980 yen after considering the global outlook. And another one, Lime cites a revenue surge in its filing for an IPO. Lime, which operates an electric bike and scooter network and is backed by Uber, reported a jump in yearly revenue in its filing for U.S. initial public offering. The San Francisco-based startup did not reveal the terms of the offering in the filing. It reported revenue growth of 29.1% to 886.7 million in the year that ended 2025 and recorded positive free cash flow for the third consecutive full year. Lime has been eyeing the public market for many years. Even several companies in the sector have struggled to overcome regulatory hurdles and the high cost of doing business, while some have even filed for bankruptcy, including e-scooter operator Bird. Founded in 2017 and now led by former Uber executive Wayne Ting, Lime provides short-term rentals of electric bikes and scooters. As of December 31st, the company had operations in about 230 cities across 29 countries. Wow, that's pretty good. I know where these people get all these great ideas. And what else do we have here? Had to have a little Pepsi Zero, you know. You have to have a little Pepsi Zero. All right. This says, buoyed by jobs data, stocks rise for a sixth consecutive week. U.S. stocks rose further into record territory on Friday as investors were buoyed by strong data from the American job market, offsetting concerns about the persistent tensions in the Persian Gulf. The S&P 500, a benchmark stock index in the United States, closed on Friday up a little over 0.8%. Enough for the index to record its sixth straight week of gains, a run last clocked in October in 2024, and the run up to the presidential election. The rise on Friday came as fresh data showed U.S. employers had added 115,000 jobs last month, and the unemployment rate remained at 4.3%, tempering concerns about the immediate weakness in the labor market and helping the stock market to shrug off intensifying geopolitical tensions. President Trump insisted on Thursday that ceasefire with Iran remained intact, even after the United States said it had struck Iranian military sites in retaliation for Iran firing on U.S. warships on the Strait of Hormuz. On Friday, Iran's foreign minister accused the United States of a reckless military adventure in undermining diplomatic efforts to end the war. What was remarkable about yesterday's and today's action in the markets is how unconcerned traders are about the renewal of kinetic attacks taking place in the U.S.-Iran conflict. Thierry Wisman, a market strategist at Macquarie Group, said on Friday, with uncertainty swirling around the state of ceasefire agreement, investors have been instead focused on the strong earnings season for public companies. With roughly 90% of the companies in the S&P 500 having reported financial results for the first 3 months of the year, the average growth in earnings from last year is close to 30% according to data from FactSet. That's roughly double what analysts were expecting before earnings season began. In the tech world, the behemoth companies at the forefront of artificial intelligence continue to surpass forecasts, Four of the top five contributors to a year-over-year earnings growth in the S&P 500 have come from Magnificent Seven cohort of tech companies: Alphabet, Nvidia, Amazon, Meta. According to FactSet, Alphabet reported earnings per share that were nearly double the amount analysts had forecast. Elsewhere, stocks fell on Friday. In Europe, the Stoxx 600, a broad index that tracks the region's largest companies, fell 0.6%. Stocks in Asia, where countries import vast quantities of oil and gas, mostly fell. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index fell about 1%, while markets in Japan, Taiwan, and mainland China were all lower. The intensifying tensions in the Persian Gulf on Friday helped push oil prices higher. The price of Brent crude, the global benchmark for oil, settled a little over 1% higher at $101.29 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude, the U.S. benchmark, rose less than 1% at $95.42 a barrel. Gas prices don't move in lockstep with crude, usually trailing increases or drops by a few days. Gas prices dipped on Friday, falling to a national average of $4.55 a gallon, according to AAA Motor Club. Gas costs for drivers has increased by 53% since the war began. Okay. The average price of a gallon has reached $5 or more in 7 states. The average price of diesel fell by a penny to $5.66 on Friday, up 51% since the start of the war. Okay. What else do we got here? I know you're hearing a lot of crunch of the paper today. When my daughter gets home, that fiance of hers, I'm going to ask her, take a look at this paper you bought me. If there's one thing wrong with this paper, what would you say it is? It's printed right. It looks good. Tell me what you think is wrong with this paper. Just take a quick look. That's what I want to know. Yeah, and then we talked earlier, biggest expansion in decades for basketball tournaments is 76 teams. There's only one reason for that, and that's more games, more television, more money. What do we have here? Here's something different. All right, this is about a woman who passed away at 91, Maria Neves Rigo. 91, half of a duo that sparked a tango renaissance. Maria Neves Rigo, who with her dance partner and one-time husband Juan Carlos Copes, formed a duo that, despite their often painful personal relationship, helped spark a tango revival in Argentina that spread worldwide. Died on April 19th in Buenos Aires. She was 91. Her death was announced by the Argentine Association of Actors and Actresses, which did not specify a cause or say where in the Argentine capital she died. The Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers of tango, Mr. Copes and Miss Neves, who dropped her surname as a professional, began dancing together in the Milongas dance events or dance halls of working-class Buenos Aires in the late 1940s. With the ambitious, controlling Mr. Copes leading the way, they went on to develop a new style that became known as the Estilo Copes-Neves. It blended the romance and elegance of tango traditionally and intimate improvisational social dance into choreographed, stage-worthy spectacle, complete with furious footwork and athletic lifts. For roughly a half a century, Miss Neves and Mr. Copes were recognized as international ambassadors for the art form. They reached their pinnacle with Tango Argentino, a stage production that premiered in Paris in 1983 and became a sensation in Europe and Asia before landing on Broadway in 1985, where it earned critical raves and several Tony nominations. Very nice. The show featured several pairs of dancers exploring the history of tango and its varieties. But Miss Neves and Mr. Copes were the undisputed stars, who, as the critic Anna Kisselhoff wrote in her New York Times review, give us the tango as pure form. Tango Argentino shattered the old Hollywood stereotypes of tango, the swoop and dip image or its cheek-to-cheek slinking variant. Miss Kisselhoff wrote, nothing could have prepared the lay audience for the string legs, the brilliant kicking, and brisk footwork and twists. The energetic production was credited with inspiring a worldwide renaissance for the genre, with tango clubs sprouting up in cities all over. And there is a picture here of them two dancing. It looks like, yep, they were This was a picture of them dancing in 1985, and then there's a picture of her when she's older in 2015. The article again, it was like a revolution. Miss Neves recalled in our last tango, a 2015 documentary about her and Mr. Copes, Tango Mania. But it wasn't all triumphant for Miss Neves, as her initial love affair with Copes turned into a turbulent relationship, including a fraught 9-year marriage marked by her husband's infidelities. All my anger, all my pride was thrown on stage, she recalled in a 2003 interview with the website Toto Tango. Many people who did not know what was happening told us it's quite noticeable, your passion when you dance. Yes, the passion of hate. That probably made it even better, right? That she was mad at him and it was tension and then they were dancing. It's probably brought it all out. Maria Neves Rigo was born in Buenos Aires on September 6, 1934, to poor immigrant parents from Galicia in northwest Spain. Her father, a milkman, died of tuberculosis when she was young, and by 12 she had left school to work with her mother as a maid. That's not good. Her first exposure to tango was hearing the music on the radio. She began practicing steps by dancing with a broom. She was in her early teens when she first spotted Mr. Copes, who was 3 years her senior and studying to be an electrician at a local dance hall. He initially focused his attention on her older sister. Still, Miss Neves recalled, I liked the way he looked, butterflies in my stomach. Interviewed for the documentary, Mr. Copes was not quite so sentimental. I realized she was what I was looking for my height and the way I moved, he said. At the moment, I knew I had found Stradivarius. They refused to be confined by the traditional parameters of tango. Instead, they found inspiration to exuberant athletic moves on display in exuberant Hollywood musicals like Singin' in the Rain. We went at least 5 times, Miss Neves recalled, of that classic 1952 film. We came out of there and thought we were Gene Kelly. Although they lacked formal training, they excelled in competitions held throughout Argentina. In 1955, they scraped together enough money to rent a theater and mount their first revue, a forerunner of sorts to Tango Argentino. The success of that show led to an invitation to perform at more prestigious theater in Buenos Aires. But even as they made a name for themselves, tango itself was in crisis, losing popularity among Argentine youth to rock and roll and modern forms. A new direction was needed. Mr. Copes always said that tango had to be about more than just giving to Milonga, Miss Neves recalled in the documentary. He insisted that it could be something worldwide. They created Compañía Argentina Tangolandia, known as Tangolandia, a traveling revue featuring music by the composer Astor Piazzolla that showcased Miss Neves and Mr. Copes' new style of tango, which was often called Tango Escenero or Stage Tango. By 1959, they were touring the world. In the early 1960s, they made multiple appearances on the Ed Sullivan Show, and over the years opened up for the likes of Frank Sinatra and Danny Thomas. That's amazing, right? They married in Las Vegas in '64, although Mr. Copes, by his own admission, was not cut out to be a one-woman man. As a human being, I always remembered her totally, he said in the documentary. The fact that I had weaknesses, on the other hand, I think that's natural, otherwise I wouldn't be a man. As the years passed, their personal relationship devolved, even as their professional life together flourished. We cursed each other when we danced, Miss Neves said, but nobody noticed. She eventually learned that Mr. Copes had fathered a child with another woman. The marriage ended in '73, and Miss Neves had to decide whether to continue with her dance partnership. I had to choose, she said, and I chose tango. Mr. Copes eventually started a family with the other woman, but he and Miss Neves continued to dance together until '97, when he set out on his own. They reunited in 1999 for a Broadway revival of Tango Argentino. He died in 2021 from complications of COVID. Complete information about her survivors was not immediately available. Even during her most tumultuous sketches with Mr. Scopes, Miss Neves found ways to channel her anger. I was hurt, she said, but that helped me to rise a bit higher because I was always beneath him. I said to myself, I'll show you. I'll mop the floor with you on stage. Interesting article. Okay. And I could tell you when I realized that I had the wrong paper today, because all of my recipes that are on the very last page, not there. And I thought something is wrong with my paper. Where is this? What's going on? And I'll tell you what was wrong. It's the wrong paper. All right. So I have the crossword here. I don't know if anyone's doing this. Man, I wish I could find a way to find that out. I wish I knew if I was doing something you guys are interested in doing. Because I'd like to know, people. All right, well, it's right here. Let me take a look. Let's take a look here. Yeah, you're getting a lot of paper crunching. There is no silence here today. This is straight up noise. All right. Let's take a look at some questions, and let's just do it. This one here is 10 letters. It says gold medlars. Gold medlars. Make sure I mark that so I get the answer. Yeah, that was kind of extreme. All right. And let's go to the next one here. Place for a post. Place for a post, and that is 4 letters. What is a place for a post? Probably a hole. Is it a hole, people? Are we done with that one? I'm going to say we might already have that answer. I don't know. 24 across is 6 letters, and it says low-level clouds. Low level clouds, 6 letters. Okay, that's that. And this is, let's see, 33, 4 letters, black and white debut of 1912. 4 letters, black and white debut of 1912. What is that? What is it, people? And let's do a couple more. Why not? Let's see. Here's one that is. Oh, that's too easy. I can't give you that. That's too easy. You'll get it right away. How about this one? What is this? Is 38. What? 38 says list of qualifications. Let me see. Looks like that's 4 letters. List of qualifications. Okay. And maybe one more here. What do we have? Oh, great find in the candy aisle by the sound of it. And that's 4 letters. Great find in the candy aisle by the sound of it. What is everybody's favorite candy? Don't mind me some chocolate. I like some Tootsie Rolls. Charleston Chews are amazing. Put them in the freezer if you didn't know that. Put them in the freezer, some Charleston Chews. You'll love me for it later. I'm telling you right now, you'll thank me. I like those caramel ones. What are they called? What are those candies called? I'm drawing a blank on them. They got that white little middle. They're delicious. All right. There's this big travel page here on C8 of New York Times. I'll just give you some highlights here. It says 5 hotels to consider for your next road trip. The one says the Lake Estate on Winnisquam. It's 36 acres in the Lakes region of New Hampshire. It's 114 rooms and suite luxury resort and spa. Has mountain views and more than 3,000 feet of shoreline. It's about 90 minutes from Boston. All right, that looks cool. Under Canvas Yosemite. Just opened glamping getaway on 85 acres. And there's a nice illustration, I want to say, on the very first place. Looks like an outdoor area. This one here, this thing looks like a big tent almost, but real cool. It just opened it's glamping getaway. It's 85 acres. It's about 10 minutes from Yosemite National Park Wilderness Center at Big Oak Flat Information Station. It's known for its blend of safari-inspired tents, boutique hotel amenities. Under Canvas has more than a dozen locations. This is its first in California. It looks really cool. It's like camping, glamping, it's just really cool. This tenting is this door. It's really nice. It's awesome. But you go outside and you're in all this like wilderness, all this nice outdoor type of thing. Yeah, it's really cool. Then there's one called the Compton. While many people who know Bentonville as the headquarters of Walmart, I didn't know that, to cyclists, the city is better known as a leafy haven for mountain biking. And there's a 142-room suite downtown hotel leans on into that, taking its inspiration from the Ozarks and its cycling culture. That's the Compton. There's a looks like a big picture of like their lobby. Really cool looking, unique looking place. Tumbling River Ranch. This ranch, surrounded by Pikes and Isabel National Forest and the Mount Evans State Wilderness area, has reopened after a renovation that redesigned the rooms and added 5,500 square foot lodge with warm woods, rugs, and soaring windows that frame the trees and mountains beyond. This is amazing looking, really cool. Lodge looking, big fireplace, the whole thing. And then there's the Driscoll Hotel. Built in 1886 in lively downtown Austin, the Driscoll is nearing the completion of a major renovation of 189 rooms and suites, common areas, and restaurants. Nice looking picture. It's like very, this is from 1886, and it's just got that old feel, like you'd expect like an old time actor to kind of come down the stairs. It's just got that really cool look to it. For sure. Okay. Now let's take a look. What to make next week. All right. Man, there's some dishes on here. I can't even say these dishes. I don't know how we're going to make them. If you can't even say them. Here's something. Spinach one-pot pasta. There's a picture of it. And, of course, let's take a wild guess. Guess what? It's spinach and pasta. And it's in one pot. So they weren't lying. It's one-pot pasta. Spinach one-pot pasta. That's almost fun to say, isn't it? And it says, I brought home mature, crinkly spinach from the farmer's market. You don't want that kid spinach. You want that mature spinach. You don't want no silly kid spinach in your pasta. It has a deeper, more mineral flavor than the standard baby shoots. Yeah, because it's old and crinkly. But you can use spinach of any age in Yasmin Farr's easy meal. She tosses pasta and spinach with both anchovies and, of course, Parmesan for a double hit of flavor. I don't want no anchovies. Now, I can say, not much with the ingredients here because you have one pot pasta. Okay. Salt. Let's see. 12 ounces short-shaped pasta such as fusilli pasta. 1 pound mature spinach. You want spinach that's been to college and's had a job, apparently. Tough ends trimmed because it's old. You got to get rid of the old. Or about 1 1/4 pounds or 2 10-ounce bags. Baby spinach, but you can't count on the baby spinach. They haven't been anywhere. And some olive oil. 4 to 6 oil-packed anchovies, depending on preference. How about 0 anchovies? 1/3 cup grated Parmesan plus more if garnishing, if desired. We will be garnishing with some Parmesan. 1/4 teaspoon red pepper flakes and 1 lemon halved. So here's what we're going to do with those few things. Boy, there's a lot more instructions than there is ingredients. And they do say it's only going to take about 20 minutes and about 4 servings. Bring a large pot of salted water to a boil. Add the pasta and adjust the heat to maintain a gentle boil. Cook until just shy of al dente, about 1 minute less than the package instructions. Reserve half cup pasta water. They're always reserving half cup of the pasta water. You notice that? Every time we do something, they say keep some water. Place the spinach in a large colander in the sink. Drain the pasta over the spinach. Drizzle with oil and stir to prevent the noodles from sticking. Wipe out the pot and place over medium heat. Carefully add 2 tablespoons of olive oil and anchovies. It might splatter, and stir until they start to dissolve about 30 seconds. Pour the pasta and spinach into the pot. Add the cheese and red pepper flakes and stir until a glossy sauce forms from the spinach. Fully wilt 1 to 2 minutes. If the pasta looks dry, add the reserved pasta water or 1 to 2 tablespoons at any time. Use 2 forks to separate any spinach clumps if needed. Squeeze a lemon half over everything. Taste and season as needed with more salt or lemon. Garnish with more cheese if desired. We're desiring. How about, that sounds like it's not a horrible dish. Let's skip the anchovies and do the pasta and the spinach and some cheese. And we get some Italian bread, and some oil, and we're going to dip it in there, and then we'll have a feast, some bread and butter, little oil, more Parmesan, right on there. You got the shaker cheese, right? Do the shaker cheese, put it on there. Now we're talking. I don't know who said, you know what we need? We need some anchovies. No, you know what I need? I needed a paper with today's date on it. I didn't get that. I got it in anchovy paper. All right, let's go. There's a couple other things here. Charred broccoli and salmon noodle salad. There's a picture of that. And there's another thing here. Rhubarb shake. Got a couple minutes here. We probably can get this done. The Melissa Clark recipe is actually a twofer. First, you make a quick and easy rhubarb compote sweetened with honey. Might I suggest spooning any extra on pancakes? Then you blend some of the compote with yogurt, ice cubes, and a bit of rose water. Pale pink spring in a frosty, creamy glass. So what do we need? Half pound rhubarb, thinly sliced, 2 cups, 5 tablespoons honey, more to taste. 1.5 cups of Greek yogurt, 2 cups of ice cubes, rose water to taste, finely chopped pistachios for garnish. Oh, that's a good idea on top there. They actually show that. Stir together rhubarb honey and 2 tablespoons water in a medium saucepan. Bring to a simmer and cook, stirring often for 6 to 8 minutes until rhubarb has melted and become jam-like. Let it cool. Rhubarb can be made up to a week ahead and refrigerated. Add rhubarb compote, yogurt, ice cubes, and a few dashes of rose water to blender. Blend until smooth. Taste and add more honey and rose water if desired. Pour into 2 glasses and garnish with some pistachios. That's cool. This pistachio part is kind of cool, right? So I want to say I hope everyone has a great weekend and happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. You deserve it. It's very nice to be able to read to you on Mother's Day. And I look forward to speaking to you guys again next week. You've been listening to a reading of the New York Times for, we know now, Saturday, May 9th. For more information, call 716-821-5555. Your reader has been Joe Gibbs, and it's always a pleasure. Again, happy Mother's Day. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.